Welcome to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews, and convention panels. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, assigned to Ragnarok Story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and RPGpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
You want to start with introductions? Whichever end.
Sure. Last in, I get to be the first guy. Hi, I'm Halistel. I write at Apocalypse Later. I publish at Apocalypse Later Press, and everything I publish goes through KDP. And it's been quite a fun thing of late with the changes in prices and changes in color and all of that stuff. But all of my stuff is print. So hopefully one of you guys can speak to ebooks. Yep. Excellent. Now I can learn something. Yeah. Because I'm going to have to do one of those soon.
Yep. I'm Cameron D Blackwell. I write gay science fiction, horror, and fantasy. And all the stuff that I publish also goes through KDP, and it's been a harrowing adventure as far as like the changes and me just kind of figuring out what looks good and what looks awful and whether or not I have the energy to fix it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hi, I'm Bruce Wiley. I am a struggling author. One thing is I got to come up with all the words.
Yeah.
I got stuck on this panel, and Lauren stuck on this panel because Joe and Scott said, "Oh, you're going to be publisher on Kindle, aren't you? Here, you be on this."
Oh, so
Mind
you
I
stuck it with us.
Happily. But I've done a lot of research on basically what it is. And I looked at the format years ago, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But
I'm Jessica Feinberg. I'm also known as the Dragon Lady of TusCon, not by choice, but I get branded that way. I write assorted books, many of which are guides to creatures, storybooks, children's books. I've done coloring books. It evolved into an entire product line, and everything I do is funded on Kickstarter, then goes to printers. I've worked with Ingram Spark and Kindle, Kindle both for print and for digital, and then also I know a ton about the Kindle Unlimited program, which is one of the coolest things they offer, so we're definitely gonna have to cover that.
definitely.
All right.
Let's talk a little bit about the history of digital publishing. Back in the old days, you only really had one environment, which was pretty much Amazon Kindle.
Yeah. Create space at a time.
The best way you could phrase it back then was, what you see is not what you get. The EPUB format was very difficult to format for. Painfully so, as a matter of fact. You really had to set something up, publish it. I don't think so. Play a little again. Getting closer. Oh, that completely screwed it up. And go back and start from the beginning again.
Or it looks good, and then you see it on another device, and you're like, oh my god.
Right.
Oh my god. But now with Kindle Direct Publishing, it is all automated.
And I wanted to be on the panel because obviously, if you guys haven't seen, my books are fully illustrated. So I'm trying to do things where the text and pictures have to line up in certain ways. That's really important. So I figured I can offer something different on the panel for
Actually, I do the same because these are non-fiction, so lots and lots of imagery.
And sometimes the imagery for some books needs to be lined up in certain ways with text, and sometimes it doesn't. So.
Right.
So you have to use, it is automated, but you have to use a completely different app if you are doing comic books, children's books, or illustrated books versus novels or prose or you gotta know your stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, now if you're laying out for print, then you set it out how you want in the program of your choice, and you upload a PDF, and it's going to print how you laid it out.
Exactly.
So you know you've got full control. With ebooks, you have no idea what device somebody's reading on. So they could have a screen this big, it could be this big, it could be this shape, it could be that shape, and they can wrap the text wherever. So if you've got images.
Fortunately, Kindle's fixed that in the last 10 years.
They have?
So what has fixed that is the evolution of digital reading of comic books. Because comic books, the text must appear in certain places. So when you have a print book, as you said, you're uploading a PDF, whether it's to KDP, another publisher, Ingram Spark, etc. Ingram Spark, I won't even touch digital books through them. That's all ebook format. That's a whole mess. But what Kindle offers is they have ways where you can convert your PDF to your ebook. And there are two different programs. One of them is good for if you have books with just text. But if you have books where the images need to be presented a certain way with the text, you have to use what's called the Kindle Comic Book Creator.
Interesting.
Even though if you're doing, because I was like, but I'm not doing comic books. If you're doing illustrated books like children's books, anything like that, and that converts in a completely different way, but it's very easy. What you do is take your same PDF, feed it through that, and you can get the correct file. So for yours, you probably want to check out that creator and see what comes out.
Yeah.
And so forth instead of there's two different apps, and I did a lot of Googling to figure this out. And the thing that mainly pushed the evolution of ebooks is actually, we were talking about it on a panel yesterday, it's fascinating. It was actually 50 Shades of Grey being made into a movie, which then spurred a slew of erotic fiction writers who were all digitally published and started making millions of dollars on digital books. There's a fascinating documentary called Naughty Books, and if you don't mind a risque and controversial topic, they're actually very objective on all sides of it, but it covers the publishing evolution in a fascinating way for how that evolved digitally. And the main thing driving it was actually erotic fiction. Because people didn't want to pick it up at bookstores, they were too embarrassed. So it's like video things driven online. We all know what got that all upgraded. Yeah.
I didn't download that.
Well, it's better than going to a video store, right? So.
Everybody sees you going into the back room with the curtain.
Yeah.
But I actually found it to be one of the most fascinating documentaries I've ever watched, and the best part was there's this Midwestern housewife, and she said, I told my friends I had a book out, and they asked who my publisher was, and I said I self-published, and they said, oh dear, that's so nice that you did that for yourself, and she went home to her $2 million she'd made that month. Like, she was just, okay, fine, you want to dismiss it, I'm not going to brag about it, I just got all of this money from it, so
Exactly.
It's just a fascinating documentary, and they kind of cover all that.
Maybe this perception is entirely false, but back at the time when there was all this fuss being made about how this particular fan fiction was turned into a novel, which turned out to be a way that you could make millions of dollars on through internet publishing through Amazon, I kind of got for me, looking at it from a ways off, and with some amount of experience and practice in public relations and marketing through public relations and publicity, it looked to me like maybe it was kind of a marketing campaign by Amazon for the new platform.
No, that was entirely just authors who, I think Amazon did give it a push, but if you watch what happened with authors, it was authors who were just like, we want to write this. And their fans were like, we want to buy it. You've seen it for free on forums. Where do we get it? And Amazon happened to be sitting in the right place at the right time to help people put books out. And there's a fascinating thing in the documentary where one of the authors actually does get a book released through a major romance publisher eventually, and how she sold less copies than when she did her own release digitally to her fans. So it's a very interesting documentary because it covers all different things of that evolution of writing, and whether or not you like the topic, it definitely shows that then. It's I don't love Harry Potter, but without Harry Potter, my stuff wouldn't be successful because it pushed fantasy more mainstream. Right. So that with things like the erotic fiction in digital, it really pushed what was, and then comic books coming into digital format pushed what was available to other types of writers to put your books out there. So
you also touched on one thing too, that is the big pitfall on self-publishing. Go ahead and talk about that a little bit. One of the biggest problems with self-publishing is that you have no critiquing done by anybody.
Well, you can.
We can, but
You just don't have
generally people would say, "Oh, I'll just publish this myself," and you don't have to go through editor, publisher. You know,
Layout.
You
format,
should be. You should be.
But you should be.
Yes, you
check.
definitely should be.
For what I did, but
And however, in traditional publishing, you can also get a silent editor who's just terrible, and you have no say, and they just destroy your book. So there's pitfalls to either one. I had to go through a bunch of editors and ended up actually with one of my fans who'd been buying my books for 10 years. Turned out to be an ancient history professor in the UK who also edited at Cambridge, edited their school newspaper for years, and is now one of my editors in trade for paintings and books. So it's.
But yeah, you do have there is that potential.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen stuff written by acquaintances and friends of mine that is absolute dreck. Oh my
They
God!
think they can proofread and edit their own stuff, which
Yeah,
you
which is
cannot do.
Just
Well,
you're
there's
just too
an,
close to the material.
there's an important thing here, and that is that you need to know what you can do, and you need to be really honest with yourself. And we all write, so theoretically we know how to do that. Depending on what we're writing and how we want it to go and what confidence we have, we may or may not want to pay an editor.
But you
May
can
or may
often
not.
swap edit with
Yeah.
another author.
Right.
It's more like you just can't be objective. You actually read over your own typos.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Though you come up with a list if you've done a lot of books of common things you do, so you can search your manuscript first and everyone last. But mine is I obviously talk a lot about creatures and about the breeding of dragons, and I constantly type breeding instead of breeding, which has become this running joke of stop writing cookbooks. Okay, we're not making dragon omelets, and I'm like, well.
Well, I'm neurodivergent, and I found a process with my wife that allows me to basically edit the non-fiction myself. And the way I do it is, it's mostly right anyway because of the way my brain works. But when I write something that's going to go into print, I read it aloud to my wife. And that uses a different part of the brain. So I can catch a certain type of error, my flow errors, where I'm reusing words that I want to break it up and use something else. And she catches my mistakes. Oh, and occasionally there'll be a spelling error in there as well.
Another sneaky way
But
of
I wouldn't
doing
do that with fiction. I
If
would
you
not do
don't
that with
have
fiction.
a handy partner who's willing to let you read aloud to them for a while, is actually use the really bad read aloud on Windows or Mac, because it sounds terrible, but that actually makes you listen harder, and it will catch a lot of your typos. It's still good to have somebody do a read through. Unfortunately, once you get a few books out, you get more fans who are like, we would like to be maybe not full editors, but test readers. So you do end up with more of the feedback level, and now I use
You've got to trust
Patreon
them,
and
so-
Ko-fi and have people giving me feedback from the early stages of concepts of my books now. So it's evolved over.
Because my wife will happily tell me I'm wrong. She has absolutely no, that was not his brother, that was his cousin.
Continuity.
Oh, yeah. But a lot of fans won't. It's like, oh my God, you're the best thing ever, and this is the best book. No, that's not what you need criticizing your book, critiquing your book.
We had 2 questions.
Well, I just want to make a statement that you do have a tool, ChatGPT 4, the one you pay for monthly, not the free one. That one can really catch a lot of stuff. I mean, see, the thing is, things like Grammarly or any of the other automated ones, they have a hard time catching when you don't use a word correctly. I had an example with something I had it edit for me. I was using the word course, CORUSC, and nothing caught it, but it caught it.
Right.
And other people missed it, other things, but it can catch stuff like that. So we have tools now like that.
Right, and then there are things that are optional, like how you're going to write dates with or without apostrophes. If you're saying 1900s, whether you're using Oxford commas, things like that. You as a writer, especially if you're doing a series of books, develop basically a Bible for your editors and proofreaders. But you also need people who will do content proofreading. Does it make sense? And depending on your project, I try to get people with as diverse backgrounds as possible. That's why I was happy to get somebody who like has a degree in ancient history in the UK. Perfect. Yeah. Like you're totally different. But I also have a couple math and science teachers because occasionally I've done things and they're like, this dragon would not exist anymore. It doesn't reproduce often enough that it would still be in existence. Like they're very good at catching that stuff. So I think you build up what you need for the specific thing that you're writing, and then it's going to vary a lot. But you cannot be 100% objective about what you're writing because you wrote it. So
yeah, and pay people. I mean, free tools are great, but if there's something that you honestly know you can't do yourself, pay somebody to do it. It's worth it.
It is.
So I end up going through, or my books, I end up having people go through them between 5 and 10 times after the manuscript is written. And for myself, I find that reading from back to front is one good way because you don't get into the story.
Right, reading the chapters out of order will totally also get you.
Okay, I use Creative Writer, and it picks up stuff. I use an editing group, and they do pick up stuff like, where did this character come from? Or, that's not the description you used before, that kind of thing. And then I have a regular editor that I pay, and she goes through and picks up the rest. It doesn't get it all. If you've got 100,000 words, it ain't going to be perfect.
You have to learn to live with a couple typos because they're going to get through it. The interesting thing is with art, there's some similar techniques that take you out of the same thing as like reading a book backwards, out of order, reading aloud. You actually can, and I always recommend that people doing their own book covers, if you're an author and you're having a cover design for you to do this, mirror image your book cover and make sure it still looks good.
Yeah.
Because if there's symmetry issues, centering issues, things that your eye would not catch, either turning it upside down or mirroring it, they've done studies that show that people can draw more accurate portrait likenesses if they draw from a photo of a person and everything is upside down. Because it takes you out of your brain telling you how something should be and lets you look at it objectively. Right. And obviously, if you're talking about digital publishing and we're talking about covers, you also should make sure that your book cover looks good this big.
Yeah.
Because it's going to show up on Amazon tiny. It's going to show up across a room at a convention very small. I've seen a lot of absolutely amazing indie published authors, and they have fonts that are just not readable on their covers. Yeah. Like, you might fall in love with the font, but get like 10 people to look at it and tell you if they can read it. Yeah, because that's huge.
The kerning, it always bugs me when like the R and the N next to each other makes it look like an M, and it's like what?
Oh, there's a font. I can't remember which one. There's a font I really like. Oh, Nevis. It's a really good sort of headline font, and the kerning is just wrong, so I can't use it for certain words.
Yeah.
And it's
one of the most famous things they tell you, and a lot of people just never use the font Arial. When people are like, "What are you talking about?" Try writing an address label going to Illinois in Arial, because it'll just look like 3 lines in a row. They do not differentiate between a capital. Yeah, it's yeah. So there's always
like the else is just like just a little bit larger than the
And then there's also a lot of writers who feel like they have to put absolutely everything on the cover, like what the book's about, like on the front cover. Yeah. You don't need 20 text items. You need something to draw people in, get them to turn the book over, read the blurb on Amazon, ask you about it, draw them in. But you definitely, if again, what you're comfortable doing. So if you're not comfortable with doing that, you can easily get a cover designer. There's a lot of options for very affordable things. People trying to build portfolios who are happy to have you use a photo or take part in it. But depending on where you're at, and whether you're going through a small press or doing it yourself, there's definitely need for like an objective eye for a lot of these things because we won't see them.
Yeah, and that's a really important flow. So if you have a physical copy, it's slightly different with Amazon, though it still applies. But with a physical copy, somebody's going to come up, they're going to see your book, the cover is what grabs it. That's it. It doesn't matter what's in the book.
The visual hook.
The visual hook. It's going to grab them or it isn't going to grab them. If it grabs them, they're going to turn it over and see what it is.
And then you've got
you've got the blurb on the back. That's important. It's got to be meaningful. It can't be crazy. It's got to be right. And then they're going to open a book and look like this. They're not reading it. They're just looking what it looks like. And if you haven't laid the book out right,
if the margins are weird, or
they might put it right back down again. So I'm not reading that. There's no margins. There's no justification. There's a blank line in between every paragraph.
And one of the things I struggled with on mine is that because I was like with this one doing a field guide, I wanted it to look kind of handwritten, but then I had to have it be readable, so I ended up getting like 20 different free commercial use fonts and handwriting, did a bunch of samples, shrank them down enough so you could read them, but they were on a smaller size, and just put them up for vote on my Patreon and was like, which of these is most readable and do you like? And looked at what people said, because that really helped. Because you might fall, I mean, I was mentioning in a panel yesterday, but the worst font issue I've ever had with a product I've got from someone else. I love Brian Froud. He designed Labyrinth and Dark Crystal, and he has 2 gorgeous Oracle decks out. And the first one, thank God the cards are numbered to reference in the book, because the font used the capital letters on the cards, you cannot tell what they are.
Oh.
They're very flowery, they're very pretty. I have no idea what half of them are. Like, there's like 8 swirls in the F, and I'm like, is this an F? Is this an L? I can't. Is it a T? I can't tell. So
When fonts get too extra.
And you might fall in love with that, but you have to be like, is this actually going to be something where someone can tell what my book title is?
There was a rather famous meme about someone writing something in blackwork, and all they did is like same little lines, like 12 or 14 black lines, and it says, "What was that?" It says minimal. And yeah, that's because that's the way you do blackwork, is that it is, a set pattern. And when you've got a certain number of letters that have to use the same one, well, it's going to come out looking odd.
Unless, of course, you're a death metal band, in which case you don't want anybody to read your logo.
Yep, that's the one case where, like, if your logo's too readable, you're probably not a good metal band.
Yes.
If it doesn't, as my person said, if it doesn't look like a tangle of tree branches or brush that you find on the side of the road, they're not a good band.
Yeah.
And it's a trend with them. And if you ever see a poster that has like 10 bands for a concert, it's the funniest thing. It's just like,
I think that one's going to be good.
You're right. He's like, can you read this one? I'm like, nope. Are there any letters in there? Like, some of them literally just look like scribbles, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So obviously there are exceptions to the rule.
So you mentioned justification, and that has been, it just made me cringe, because I just learned about justification last year. So I've been doing this by myself, right? I've been self-publishing. So if you I started self-publishing in like 2018, just because I didn't want to take the time to learn how to do it correctly. I didn't know how, and I let my fear of not knowing get in the way of that. But I'm like, you know what? I'm finally going to do it, and I just put it all together in KDP and then threw it out there. And it was like, yay, I did it! And then I got the book in print form. Like, this is awful. No justification whatsoever. I think someone did a review of one of my books, and like, there's no justification in this book, and there's no justification for not having any justification.
But you learned for future.
Was that me?
Well, I hope so.
It might have been
Cherry vanilla.
Cherry vanilla, yeah. And so I'm like, I don't know what that is, but okay, cool. And so my books has been like, it's a journey of what I've learned. So like these 2 books, no justification. And then somebody said, oh, this is what justification is. And then the 3rd book was like, oh, wow, this is great. So now that I know what this is, I'm like, do I really want to go back and fix all of that?
And I think it's like a constant improvement process.
Yeah, it
is.
I don't know, nobody's mentioned, we're talking about KDP, a lot of it for digital publishing and for print publishing, but nobody's mentioned Unlimited.
Yeah.
Do you guys know about that?
I know about it, but I don't use it.
So what Kindle Unlimited is if you are digitally publishing a book for Kindle, you have the option of joining the Kindle Unlimited program. You can also remove your book from it at any time. It takes about a month, so you have to choose. By doing that, it says you're going to be exclusive to Kindle, meaning you're not going to sell, give away, or distribute a PDF in other ways. Now, if you've distributed previously for a Kickstarter and that's a secure download, that's fine, but you're not going to distribute that book in digital format except through Kindle. But what that does is it puts your book in the Kindle Unlimited program. The Kindle Unlimited program is a $10 monthly subscription where any book in it can be read for that subscription. And they take 100% of the subscription fee, add it up, which is usually between $30 and $40 million, and divide it up amongst the pages read, because they can tell digitally what pages have been viewed. And then they pay you royalties on that. So you are still paid per book read, but your readers are only paying a flat $10 fee. It's a really amazing program. A lot of what I write is for families, and so their kids want to see all my how to draw books or all of my books on dragons, and so they can read all of them in that, as long as they're a subscriber. But I'm still making anywhere from $1 to $3 a book. And if you happen to get to a top slot in Kindle Unlimited authors, they get bonuses of like $4,000 a month. Like, there's people who are just raking in money that way. But the nice thing is that I know there's pros and cons to Amazon.
Yep.
Obviously, they're a big company. They have many departments, many different points of view on it. But the fact that they've done this for authors, so that there's a way your readers who are on a budget can read these, and they might take a tiny cut that's like to maintain the servers for it, but I don't think that they do. I think that comes through the regular publishing cuts, and that it is just something they're doing so that indie authors can get money back from basically books being read for free. So
and KU continues to evolve, because when KU first emerged, it was if they read more than, I think it was 30 or 40% of the book, you got whatever.
It's usually per page read, but you cannot read your own books, by the way, to earn money. They do have a way to check that. I mean, you could try to be sneaky and like create other accounts and scroll through your whole book, but it would just be very weird to do that. There's also a lot of really amazing authors. There's a couple I read who really don't do a lot of print sales, who are just primarily through Kindle Unlimited and Audible for audiobooks. In cozy mysteries, there's like a huge push for that, and there's some authors who are putting out 2 or 3 books a year and doing really, really well that way, and they are basically cutting out the entire mainstream distribution. They're not even going to conventions. They're just sitting there doing their writing at home, putting the books out and raking in money. So, you know, there's obviously a lot of options, and you have to figure out as a creator what you want to do. As I say, I feel like you should be on the panel too, because I know you're all Kindle. And
I'm pretty much all Kindle too. I mean, so.
The Wood exclusive worries me that, but it's you make that.
But you can turn it off at any time. It
Right.
takes a month to they basically do the first of the month, pull things from the program that have been turned on and off. So you can decide, I'm going to do a giveaway. Or the thing is, as part of the program, you also can choose to do a certain number of specials where, like, your book is only $1 for people, or you can do free giveaways, and it gets you a lot of PR on Amazon to do that, and that your book's free for a certain amount of time, the digital book. So if you have a new book coming out in a series, you can be like, go read the first one for free right now.
Right.
For like 14 days or something.
And you can change that, bring it out, bring it in.
Yeah.
Out.
You have a lot of options, and I like that you're not like for all time locked to that. So since I Kickstarter fund everything, my deal is if you get a physical book on the Kickstarter, you got the digital book for free. And if my project has multiple books, you get all the digital books for free. So a lot of times if you're buying like a $20 full color hardcover, you're actually getting $30 of digital books for free with it from me. But then after the Kickstarter, because that distribution is all done securely, it's not open to the public, it's just for those people, I go to Kindle Unlimited usually within a year and then let people in that program read it. So.
Yeah, to go back to what you're saying about the KU, like dropping it down to free, they have what they call it's not the lightning deals, but it's you make it free for a week, and then it becomes like $1.
Yeah.
And then $2.
And then you can
actually control all of how that's going to be set up. So.
And you can set that up as many times as you want.
It's called the Kindle Countdown.
There we go.
And you can do it once every 90 days.
Yeah.
Or you have 7 days for the countdown that you can break it up into different. If you want to do it for 3 days here and 4 days there, you can do that within.
I do like that they limit it, because I think that there would just be authors who were just trying to constantly spam promotions to try to like boost their books, and I think it's to say like every 90 days you have X amount of giveaways and things that you can do is really fair. So.
And I've done the countdown on one of my books that I managed to format to be an ebook, and I got pretty good results from that.
I'm doing a countdown at the end of the month for the new book. I would only do that in the future when I have more than one book in that series. The first book will be a free promotion. It's a countdown at the end of this month because right now the only book in that series. But I've had good success doing the free promotions with the first book in the other series. There's 5 books in the series now. So even though I'm giving away the first book repeatedly, I'm getting a lot of downstream sales.
Because then people want to read the next book.
Yeah, people want to read.
And I've done
that's
it
where it's been
that way, and then I've also done it themed. So like if it's Halloween and I have a spookier book, that'll be free for a week for like Halloween. Or there'll be one that's like more of a cozy children's book read for Christmas. There'll be a week you can get that for free. So you can do a lot of things like that. And the fact that like love or hate Amazon, they have that all built in, and you can again put books in and out of the program. So you might say my newest hardcovers aren't going to be in there for the first year, and you have to get the hardcover or the digital book and pay for it. But then after that, it will be in the program. And I guess the one thing I will say is the one thing I don't do, and I print them through Amazon. I print my coloring books through Amazon, but I don't put my coloring books on Kindle because I think that there's not really a good way to print off Kindle. There's no reason to do it. So I do sell the coloring book PDFs off of my website, and if there's anybody who wants to sell their books directly off a website and needs recommendations for like shops or stores, you can ask me here or ask me in the vending hall for the hour after this, and I'm happy to tell you who I use and how I sell digital stuff off my site and all that.
I want you to write a book.
Write
Write a book and put it on Kindle. I'm like, so this is how you do the thing on Kindle.
Right? I would just put that up for free. I wouldn't feel good about charging for that. I actually have a lot of like blog stuff and stuff on my site where I do list like all the services I use and how I developed how I do stuff, because I feel like we all do stuff differently and we can learn from each other. So
yeah, and you'll learn from yourself too. The more you do it, the more you change certain things, because like the lady said with justification, there's things that look great when you first do it, but as you move on, you realize no, that should be slightly different. I mean, one of the changes I had from I don't have my early books here, but I changed the font. And it's only a very subtle font from Gentium to Gentium Plus, but the line spacing is so much better. It looks so much better on the page.
I think you acquire an eye for things, and the more you read books, I'm obviously like people say, in order to write books, you got to read books. I think same thing is in order to lay out books or publish books. And I always tell people this for Kickstarters, and I think it applies to publishing. If you're not sure about things, Google like really good selling books, look at what they did, and then Google ones that people gave bad reviews to and see what was wrong with them. Yeah. Like look at the things that fail, because you'll learn a lot from those as well.
Yeah, and look at a book you like. I mean, most writers are readers. So you're constantly looking at other people's books. Look at them with a critical eye and say, does this look good? And if it looks good, why does it look good? And why does this one look bad? What's the reason? And that'll teach you the things that you want to do in your own layout.
Like if you wouldn't read it that way yourself, don't do it.
Right.
And obviously, like if you're going through a traditional publisher, sometimes they kind of have all the say in fonts. It depends on the publisher. A lot of the smaller publishers, they'll let you have more say in your book cover, your fonts, your release dates and stuff, but the bigger publishers, they don't, and I think more and more of us are getting pickier. Like, we're putting all this work in. I know for me, because I'm also illustrating them, I want to pick the cover. I want to pick the font. I want to choose what my reader is experiencing very exactly. Maybe I'm a control freak. That might be part of it.
No, it's not a bad thing.
Because it's so rare that authors get say, and in traditional publishing, like they get to say of like, okay, the choice of the fonts, the choice of the cover. So I think indie publishing, is really great way of like taking back ownership and control of that.
Yeah, try doing that with a traditional publisher. Or you are Stephen King.
Yeah.
Actually, the famous one is James Owen, because he's an illustrator and a writer. When he was doing his books, he said his main series of books, I can't think of what they're called, the Dragon books. He said, I want to do the cover art myself, and I want to do an illustration each chapter like they used to do in older books.
Oh God, yeah.
And he went to, and he had a publisher approach him and said, I want to put the book out, but we're going to do the cover. No, I want to do my own cover. And they're like, well, we'll give you a third more for the series in money. Like, they offered him a third more in advance, and he said, no, I want to do the cover. They're like, nicely played, James. We'll give you a third more. And he said, no. And he went through, which is, at that time, he was, like, not having money for groceries. So, very, like, he's an amazing speaker here. Very, very good. He stuck by it. And he eventually ended up with Simon & Schuster, who let him do it. And the coolest thing is, if you own his entire series of books, not only are the covers amazing, but the hard covers, I don't know what the paperbacks is, if you line them up, the spines on the books make a picture of a dragon. It is freaking cool. Like, he knew what he wanted to do, and he stuck with it. So you got to realize that if you're making a book, whether you're illustrating, writing, whatever you're doing, you are putting a lot of heart and soul into it. If you just want to make money, there's frankly easier ways to make money in the world. You can't. There's also this myth that we're all starving, and that's not true. Depends on the author. But if you're going to be doing all that, you have to ask yourself, what's that end product that's coming out? How much control do you want to have in it? And who are you comfortable working with, whether you're self-pub, publisher, small press, getting editors, and if it is being presented as a digital book, what are you comfortable with in how people are going to be reading it?
And sometimes how you present it in, like when you're talking about justification, people always like, they tend to like to justify books. But there's reasons why you don't justify. And I think one of the best examples I can think of that was The Demolished Man. by Alpha Tester.
Yep.
And the justification in that book is nuts because it's about telepathy. And when you think about, I mean, most of the way people think about telepathy, it's like, oh, it's just normal words, you know? But he's like, no, you think sideways, you think parallel, and you think, and he shows that in the justification of the book, and it's nuts to read as a result, but it's so engaging.
One of the other books series that I know he had a difficult time with was Series of Unfortunate Events, because he plays with not only how text is laid out in the book, but with weird things, and he had to go to his editor at one point and say, the editor said, you have 4 pages of the same thing over and over again. He's like, no, that's on purpose. There's a secret message in the middle of it if you keep reading it. It's supposed to be that way. You know, because he was doing things like that, and the editor, was like, oh, okay, you know. I did one of those in mine where I thought it would be really cool, since there was a fire genie, if it looked like part of the page in front of it had been burned from the page behind it. And I had an editor to go, you know, this is really weird. There's text on like one corner of this. And I'm like, yes, if you look at the next page, it's the next page showing through. Okay, never mind. Never mind. And then my latest book, I have something that's an invisible newsletter, so there's no picture for it. And at least one person was like, you know, the picture's missing here. And I'm like, it's literally called the invisible newsletter. So
the rule there is that you need to know the rules so that then you can break the rules at the appropriate moment.
And break the people trying to do the things.
Don't break the people. Yeah, I actually talk about the Demolished Man in this one, 'cause this is the first 4 decades of Hugo winners.
Oh, okay.
And because of the telepathy, and I can only just read myself because I didn't bring those glasses. Oh, did I? Yes, I did. But yeah, if only there was an easy way to translate the telepathy shown here through the wonders of layout design into some sort of visual element. Conversations between peoples here are fragmented into columns or wilder patterns of text. And I can't talk about psychoanalysis much because that way lies spoilers, but it's pivotal stuff and that's what's unusual and interesting. And that's a good thing to have in a book, unusual and interesting. But it's got to work. It's got to have a reason to work.
Oh, like House of Leaves, right?
Oh, House of Leaves.
Yeah.
People will buy House of Leaves because it doesn't follow any rule there is in the layout.
So I did Hollywood creature design, and then obviously didn't end up staying in Hollywood. But the thing that my teacher hammered into my head over and over again is you can do anything you want with the creature design, so long as you have a reason for it when someone asks you. As long as there's like there we go with your ships. Yeah, you gotta have a reason. If you're like, oh no, this creature, you know, it has super sensitive skin and that's why it looks like this. As long as you have that answer for when someone asks you, then you're good. But like, if you do things just to do things, then it. Yeah.
I think that's like a rule in steampunk too. Like, okay, cool, you have this cool device, it looks great, but what does it do? Like you have to explain. You know.
Yeah.
That's like the kiss of death in a horror movie where they're like, "Ooh, let's just put all the cool gross stuff in, but not having a reason for it to actually be happening." The Exorcist Beginnings was one of those where you're like, "What? Why is he eating my bugs?" Okay, we're never going to explain the bugs in any other scene in this movie, but okay.
Exactly. There was a situation where, talking about justification and such. It's like I really wanted to use an acronym, a modern acronym, in one of my stories. So I had to backronym the whole thing and develop the Tesla accentuated rod of electric radiance. It is a taser. And basically it's the guy's walking stick has a flywheel in it. As he walks, he's storing electric current. So when necessary, he puts the 2 electrodes on the end of the cane, hits the button, and zap! Knocking the guy out.
I think I usually stay away from acronyms because I really don't know how to make them work within the story. But in one of my, I have a web series, it's kind of like a fantasy spoof, and one of the characters needs to get some new armor, and so he is taken to this like bazaar, right? And he's like, "Oh, this shiny gold metal is made from polyorbium latinum triaspisilamate," and it's like, "What?" It's like, "Oh, it's PLOT."
Well, and there are writers like who won't tell you ahead of time, who hide things. Like, again, I have to go back to like people who play with languages like Lemony Snicket Series or Fortunate Events. That if one of the books is bird themes, it's the Fowl Village, like birds, like fowl. And the baby's nonsense words in that book, when I read it, I thought they were nonsense words, like all of the other books. Until someone who was a bird watcher read it and said that the scientific names of birds backwards. I'm sure his editor had so much fun with that. Like, what is this? But yeah, I think that it's great if you can work those things in. But again, because we are talking about formatting, when you are formatting, you have to make sure they're going to work in digital format.
Yeah, in whatever format you
So
publish.
if your book has like a coded letter that a reader needs to see in a certain layout, you've got to make sure that will carry through to whatever. Because we're talking about images, but if you have text that has to lay out in a certain way, you may also have to use like the comic book exporter or something else to just really test that and make sure it's not going to like wrap to a different page.
And I really like the fact that KDP allows you to preview the layout before you press the button, because when I published Cherry Vanilla, I didn't have that. I just uploaded
it's
it.
gotten a lot better now.
And especially when I export it as a PDF, on Google Docs, because I use Google Docs because I'm basic.
If it works for you,
It works.
Well, because I don't.
Price is right.
Well, yeah, exactly. From the days where you stop, where you lug your laptop around, well, now I can use it on any, and I can use it on my phone, so I write on my phone now, because I'm bougie. And I forgot where I was going with this. So it looks one way on your screen, and then you export it as a PDF, and then you upload it to KDP. Well, something that was dead center is now over here when you upload it to KDP, and I'm like,
So with that, the awareness you have to realize is it's both a pro and a con. On most Kindle devices, and if you have a phone that has the Kindle app, one of the things that they let you do is adjust the text size when you're reading, so that if your eyesight is different, whatever, which is a great thing. But if your book has something that has visual layout, either with art or text, you may need to convert like a letter or something to an image for that book. Because if there's text that say, like again, like someone's decoding a message and you want it to display a certain way, and they put the font size up and it wraps all weird, it won't work. So those are if you have those special formatting things, that's where you have to be aware of like what maybe needs to be an image, and definitely always play with adjusting your font size on your books.
And if you're doing print as well, this is not ebook, but if you're doing print, especially if you are not 100% sure, I've got a format for some of these that's exactly the same width, same page count, same everything, so I'm pretty sure. But if you're not 100% sure, get a physical proof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which you have to pay for.
Yeah.
But
it's very fast though now. It's so quick at getting it. Yeah. Even like the color books, like within like 4 days I can have a proof, which is insane.
My first 2 books came out in 2013, and I was running way too late before Phoenix Comic Con. I wanted my books to sell at Phoenix Comic Con, so I did not get physical proofs. The first one came out great. The second one, the spine is completely wrong. If I'd have got the physical proof, that would be perfect, because I'd have changed it. And I didn't, and now I'm stuck with a horrible spine for the second book, and I'm still 10 years later thinking, should I go back to a new edition and fix that? Yes, I probably should.
You can just upload a new cover. Yeah. And I guess this I get to mention, so the 2 ways that people mainly self-pub are, if you're going for print or ebook, are Kindle and Ingram Spark. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have flat out said Ingram Spark for everything print and Kindle for everything digital. But that severely changed during the pandemic because Ingram Spark increased their prices, Amazon lowered their prices, added premium color printing, and added hardcovers as an option, and their premium color printing is cheaper than Ingram's premium color printing and drastically better quality, and you can always stop by my booth and ask me. I have examples of both. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing is that the setup on Ingram Spark is, I think, 10 times harder than the setup on Kindle. They've tried to improve it and make it more automated, and it is worse now. It is so bad. So I definitely for digital books, do not do it. But the biggest issue I had with them is that Amazon's a lot pickier about their printing and shipping, and also letting you know when things are going to arrive. And if I order, say, 150 of these from Amazon, I might have 1 or 2 that have a printing error or have been damaged in shipping that I have to replace. If I order 150 of them from Ingram, there's a good chance that I have to replace 50% of the books. And they will do it, but you have to take a photo of each damaged book, because they are very bad at packing hardcovers. And after 3 years of hundreds of books being replaced, I was like, I cannot do this anymore. It is just stressful when you need things for an event. Like, there's a reliability with Amazon of, I can see when my books are going to arrive. I know that most of them are going to get there okay and not have problems.
So, what about retail versus wholesale on Ingram Spark versus Kindle?
They're the same now.
Are
Ingram
they?
used to be better, but Ingram had to go to the same retail, which is 30%.
Right.
A minimum is that you can do is 30% cut, and that is what they are all at now.
Yeah, because it's still pretty much print on demand, right?
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
So the way you go for larger print runs is you go to a printer,
Yes.
and the bigger the print run, the cheaper it gets.
Actually, it's still better through Amazon, and the reason is if you're super sneaky, you get an Amazon credit card, and you can actually get 6% cash back on all of your printing, which drastically, basically alleviates any of that. And the big deal is if you have international fans, being print on demand through Amazon or Ingram is huge, because if a fan in the UK doesn't care about having a book signed or wants a coloring book, which they rarely want signed, and they order mine off Amazon, it prints and ships in countries, so they are not paying international shipping.
Except you can't do certainly premium color. I don't think you can do color on Amazon in certain countries.
No,
I think it's Japan
across the board.
and no, it's most of them you can. But there's a couple you can't. I had that with the zine, and I had to remove the pricing for those two countries. One's Japan, and the other is I can't remember.
Because it put it all up for mine, and I've had people order from
So
them,
they-
so maybe they've fixed it. Because I know the hardcovers were in beta for a while, and they're just starting.
Yeah, I haven't done hardcover. Maybe that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do hardcovers and paperbacks, but they're all.
I think one of the guys in the dealer booth has one of the Amazon hardcovers.
This is an Amazon hardcover. This is an Ingram Spark hardcover. And I got it. I was like, I will bring both. So, especially if you are doing something that has art or photos, the premium quality difference is drastic between the two, because Ingram's on the same paper for standard premium and Amazon's on a different paper.
And if you want to see
paper
the
is
difference,
much,
come up afterwards.
Just stop at the vending room, and I'm happy to show the difference. You don't have to buy anything. This is not a gimmick. I'm just happy to show differences, and if anyone has questions about okay, so you're doing a Kickstarter and you want people to get your book internationally, but they are going to pay more shipping, how you incentivize that. I have whole things that Kickstarter's a whole other topic, but I'm happy to.
So these are premium color.
This is a premium color. Yeah.
These are standard color. When you're doing standard color is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So you're paying less for your books. You're selling your books for less. You're not selling those for $12, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm selling these for $12.
But
Full color.
weirdly,
But-
standard color on Ingram is better quality than standard color on Amazon.
Ooh, good to
But
know.
premium on Amazon is better quality than premium on Ingram, and it's cheaper. I have done comparisons. It's like, what the actual? All right, fine.
And what I found with the standard color is that you've got to be careful about the sort of picture you're using.
Yeah.
Because these are mostly books about films or about books, and so I'm using existing images. And the darker the image, and I found with this one's about Pam Grier, who is an African American actress. So certain images have come out really, really dark. Far darker than they should be in that book. Enough that I want to go back and fix
Yeah,
it.
contrast is a huge thing with
It's a big deal.
with standard printing versus premium printing. And obviously, I paint a lot in watercolor, so there's a marked difference looking between the contrast. And a huge part of it is, again, Amazon using the better paper for the premium. The contrast, blacks in pictures, like where you get the color difference between blacks and whites and darker line work and stuff, it is very marked on that other paper type. Whereas I can almost not see the difference between premium and standard in Ingram. It's really interesting. Their standard's better quality, but I've gotten both and put them side by side, and I can tell the difference. So
Yeah, and this is where a physical proof helps again, because my Nicolas Cage book, everything's great. I don't have a problem with any of those images. Half the images in here are great too, but the other half, no, I need to do something with the contrast. I need to manipulate those images, and I didn't do that because I just went straight to print. I didn't get the physical proof. Again, get a physical proof. If there's any
at least
possibility
for
of
your
you
first
changing
few
it.
books, and then if you're doing something that's like, oh, it's another book in the series, it's exactly the same formatting, exactly the same thing. That's not as critical.
Well, that's why I did that one, because it's the same page count, same format size, same everything. But I should have got a physical proof.
But there is a marked difference too in Ingram versus Amazon in their proofing. Amazon will almost instantaneously give you a digital proof showing margins and things, and Ingram will make you wait up to 48 hours, and then you'll get a PDF, and it's a mess, and it's a huge download. So yeah, Like, just from the process of like new folks, I always will point people at Amazon because Ingram is like a headache and
you can make those changes within the program, like
really fast. No,
really
like
fast.
just from like the way their tools work, it is a learning process. But I think you are better off spending the time learning how to publish on Amazon, and definitely having things that are fast, next day shippable, Amazon Prime printing kind of things. Like really incentivize people to get your books. So
you can do both, and we should probably mention Amazon is very, very available. Wherever you are in the world, there's an Amazon. They'll print, they'll ship. It's easy. You get that international benefit. There's all sorts of other benefits that you just mentioned. Kindle Unlimited. All of those are just Amazon. If you go, the best bet is to buy your ISBN from Bowker separately. Don't get the Amazon one because that locks you into being a KDP publisher.
nope.
No.
You can,
Does that change
you can
now?
be on both. You can be on as many. If I want to, I have collector's editions. I have this book on Ingram, and I have a collector's edition through Amazon.
Where did you get the ISBN?
Free from both.
Oh, so it's a
I have
different
ones I'm
ISBN.
not using. Yeah. No, every edition of your book
Well, yeah.
should have a different ISBN.
Yes.
Right.
Paperback, hardcover, collector's editions, reissues.
Okay,
Like,
so if you buy
yeah.
your ISBN first from Bowker, then you can publish at Amazon with your ISBN, use their free barcode and all that. But then you can go to Ingram and publish using the same ISBN because it's the same edition.
Can't. Nope.
And then you're available to
If
libraries.
that, they will not
and
let you.
bookshops will
Ingram
order.
has changed that.
They
If that
used to.
ISBN is used, you cannot use it. Ingram locked down on ISBNs about 2 years ago. It's one of the reasons I don't like them anymore.
Oh,
I have a
wow.
bunch of ones I paid for that are literally sitting there I'm not going to use because it took me 5 phone calls with them to even get those to work because they changed. You used to be able to get cheaper ISBNs and do other things, and now they're very, very picky about it. So no, each edition through each publisher must be a different ISBN. You cannot do that anymore. It's a mess.
So that's-
So-
they really
But,
crack down on
but
that.
I'm interested to talk to you about this because if you're the publisher, then that's still the same
It
edition
has to
from the
do
same
with how
publisher.
ISBN works. Nope, because they are by different publishing houses. They are considered different ISBN numbers in different editions of the book.
So your publisher is KDP?
Yep.
Okay, my publisher is Apocalypse Lake Press.
Right,
It's a
but
registered
even
account.
with that, because of who is actually printing and distributing the book, unless you're going to a private printing house and just having whatever you want printed, in which case you can dictate what goes on the book, they will not let you repeat use an ISBN. It's actually monitored and it says already used and it goes through a mess. And they even thought mine were already used when they've never been used, and I had to go through like, this is why I have issues with it. Like, you can get it to work, but the big thing for me is not knowing when books are going to arrive, having books damaged, and then about a year and a half ago they started improving the website, fixing all these ISBN things, fixing them in which it made it really strict and broke it.
Fixing.
And they put a more user-friendly interface.
Did they
And
make
I'm
it
allowed to
worse?
criticize this. I used to be a user interface designer. It's terrible. It is horrible. It has so many bugs in it. So when they went to the 30%, it used to be you could do 35%. Or like 30%, but they upped it, and you had to go change your pricing on your books if you had the lower percentage. It gave errors to everyone changing their pricing for like 4 days. It was like the worst nightmare of like, they're like, oh no, it's nothing we're doing. We're like, your site is literally telling us we're not doing it right when the percentage is right there and it is, and it won't say if it changes.
I guess the lesson here is that things change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
We are
so
at 5
in
minutes.
2 years you might hear me say, you've got to be on Ingram, Amazon's terrible.
Right.
All right, we're at 5 minutes till. Anybody have any questions?
Distribution on Kindle versus Ingram.
I think they're pretty on par now.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
a while, I feel like Ingram was more, and that was another reason people were on.
So
them. I
you're
think they're
getting
pretty
on
close.
to Kobo and those on Kindle, and also you're getting into library list on Kindle.
Yeah, you can now.
Yeah, I'm seeing that with
There's check marks you do when you publish where you choose for extended distribution, and that is available on both.
Same thing on
services.
Ingram, yes.
Yeah.
It used to be that no library and no bookstore would order books from CreateSpace/KDP.
Right, because
to
it was
sell.
it was all retail.
Yeah, because it's all retail price. Now that's changing. I'm seeing some indie
Yeah, that's
books
really
going
changed.
into bookstores
Yeah,
that are
okay.
on KDP.
All right, you've convinced me.
I would say try it. I mean, like I said, you can have this is still available through Ingram, but there's a collector's edition with better quality printing. That's the Amazon. So there, I actually have it listed as collector's edition, has premium printing compared to.
Well, I
So you
went
can
through the
choose.
nightmare with Ingram every book, so I know exactly what you're saying.
No, it's been getting progressively more difficult as they've improved things.
And the thing with and the thing with ISBNs. you
Oh
know,
yeah. You know,
Bowker's got it.
Five
Like I
phone
said-
calls.
A year and a half ago, I would have said Ingram over Amazon, but since they added hardcovers, the one thing that I will say is that they don't have as many options for if you want things like dust jackets. But what you can do is just have your dust jackets run as large art prints from anyone, wrap them around a book yourself, and make it limited edition and sell the book for more and sign and number them.
There you go.
As someone who just made an additional $30 per book on my new book that has a holographic dust jacket, it is well worth it.
Oh, now you're giving me ideas.
Right, I will show you stuff.
Well, thank you all for coming in. It's you got something out of all of us.
I've learned. I have questions I want to ask all of you guys. like brainstorm after this.
Yeah, good. Because my latest is at the editors now, and
Thank you.
Kindle little me.
For me, it was the stress level of like not knowing when books were going to arrive, not knowing how many were going to be damaged. It was completely stressing me out, and it just made me.
So you mentioned something about the selling off.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play-In Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, please check out D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Ragnarok Enroll a Scion Hero to Ragnarok Story. Also, check out our Patreon page for more content and behind-the-scenes things, as well as joining us for a one-shot game or two.